Okay, so we're going to start with our first question for the night. And the first question for the night says, how can I make my faith stronger?
Parte de cómo crecer nuestra fe es, yo nunca casi entendí eso hasta recién, tal vez en los últimos 4 años desde la pandemia, entendí qué significa de verdad crecer la fe. A mí me encanta un autor que estaba hablando sobre este tópico y él dijo que se tiene que, hay que creer para ver y no ver para creer. Y no lo entendía eso hasta recién, de verdad qué significa eso, pero es algo que nosotros tenemos que ejercer nuestra fe. Si nosotros de verdad no tenemos fe en un Dios que nosotros adoramos, entonces significa que no conocemos a ese Dios. Y las maneras de que yo puedo hablar en esta noche es la oración, estudiando la palabra de Dios, que son las cosas típicas, pero más que nada yo creo que la fe se aprende y se convierte en realidad fe cuando nosotros vamos a lo que es las tribulaciones que nosotros tenemos que pasar en esta vida para poder crecer. Yo creo que esa es la clave. Y por decir lo que yo mencioné, estudiar la palabra de Dios, podemos verlo en Romanos 10:17. Lo que dice este texto es, por la fe viene por escuchar y escuchar la palabra de Dios. Y eso es una manera sencilla y eso es lo que nos dice la Biblia. La oración también se encuentra en Mateo 26:41, que dice, ver y orar. Deja que ustedes entren, que no entren en la tentación. El Espíritu está con ustedes porque la carne es débil. Eso es lo que nos dice, entonces Mateo nos está mandando a que nosotros oremos. Pero más que nada me quiero enfocar en los próximos 2 puntos, que ya mencioné el uno, que es las tribulaciones y las cosas que nos pasan en la vida. Yo creo que eso es lo más difícil porque es aprender con golpes. Y levanten la mano a quien le gusta aprender por golpes. Yo creo que nadie, pero tristemente a veces nosotros somos tan tercos como los israelitas. Podemos ver como un ejemplo, podemos ver como hay diferentes personas en la Biblia que aprendieron por golpes, pero al final del día Dios nos pone esas pruebas para 2 cosas. Yo lo mencioné la última vez que prediqué, ustedes pueden ser o un huevo o una papa. ¿Qué es lo que pasa cuando ustedes hierven un huevo? Se pone duro. Si ustedes hierven una papa, ¿qué pasa? Se pone blanda. Entonces nosotros tenemos que escoger ser una persona que es más duro o es más sensible después de una tribulación. Y lo podemos ver en la historia de Egipto con el faraón, qué es lo que pasó con él. Cada vez endurecía su corazón más. Y me da un poco de chiste porque la Biblia menciona y dice que Dios hace el corazón del faraón que se ponga más duro, pero yo creo que en realidad no es Dios. ¿Quién es el que pone el corazón duro? Nosotros mismos. Entonces, ¿cómo nosotros podemos crecer nuestra fe? Es tomar esa decisión. O vamos a hacer una papa o vamos a hacer un huevo duro. Nosotros tenemos la opción. Y la segunda es lo que yo he aprendido y lo que me estaba mencionando Pri, que está diciendo gracias porque estoy tratando de ayudar y enseñar sobre la Biblia. Es, de nuevo, yo estoy aprendiendo mientras yo estoy haciendo todas estas cosas. Por decir, los problemas de la cámara que tuve hoy día, de nuevo, es un ejemplo de que no sé lo que estoy haciendo, solo estoy intentando. Pero prácticamente es lo que es fellowship. No sé cómo decirlo en español. Pero esa palabra lo he entendido en los últimos 6 meses, no, ya casi vamos un año. En este año que he sido director, he entendido la palabra verdadera que es fellowship. Y eso es ser incómodo en cada sentido de ser incómodo, porque yo, por decir, yo soy antisocial, me encanta, yo siempre digo que soy una isla, no me gusta la gente, por decir, estar aquí al frente de ustedes. Lo hago naturalmente porque lo hago tanto en el trabajo y ahora en la iglesia prácticamente todos los viernes y sábados estoy haciendo algo, pero es algo que a mí no me pone, no es cómodo, por decir, es ponerme, por decir, en los proyectos que estamos haciendo con AJ y haciéndolo con Gabe, y mi hermano mismo que me están ayudando y con Pri, por si yo les pregunto, hey, ¿me pueden ayudar a grabar un video de 30 segundos para poner en social media? Eso es algo que es muy difícil, porque nosotros no sabemos cómo va a responder la gente, no sabemos cómo responder las otras cosas, pero fellowship, y eso se encuentra en Hebreos 10, 24 al 25, nos recuerda qué es lo que nosotros tenemos que hacer. Fellowship es... No tenemos que ser, como yo mencioné en la escuela sabática la anterior semana, nosotros tenemos que dar frutos. Para poder dar frutos significa que nosotros tenemos que ser activos, y no solamente eso, pero tenemos que estar conectados al agua viva. Amen. Igual que en un lugar donde ahorita hay muchos lugares, especialmente en Ecuador, que están en sequía. ¿Qué es lo que pasa con un lugar donde tiene sequía? La tierra comienza a romperse, hay polvo, nada crece. Pero donde hay agua, ¿qué es lo que significa? Vida. Hay vida y hay frutos. Y eso es lo que Dios nos llama a hacer. Yo creo que para poder tener fe y ser más fuerte en nuestra fe, tenemos que estar, conectados con el agua viva, que es dar frutos, y es lo que es fellowship para mí. Y compañerismo, gracias, y las tribulaciones. Esas son las dos cosas que para mí es lo más importante del crecimiento, y el resto, las otras dos que dije, la oración, la lectura de la Biblia, sí es importante, pero eso es pura teoría y ustedes tienen que usar las otras dos para ponerlo en práctica.
Okay. The challenge I'll have is, do I say what he just said? But I think I captured a few of the pieces, and my approach is a little bit different, so hopefully I do say something different. So one of the things that I like to do as it relates to questions is a thing we do in sales, which is a reverse. So I ask the question back. So when you say, why or how can I make my faith stronger? The question I have for us is, do we understand what faith is? So what is faith? Anybody want to share what they understand faith to be?
Believing something is going to happen even though you haven't seen it. So believing that something will happen the way you wish it would happen.
Awesome. Okay.
But according to it's on the spiritual aspect.
Absolutely. Does anybody want to just look? All y'all young people have phones, so somebody go to the Webster's Dictionary and find what faith is defined as, and then we'll go to the Bible. And if somebody also has their Bible, you can look up Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 1. So first, let's get the Webster's Dictionary, and somebody read that out.
A complete trust or confidence in someone or something. This restoring my faith in politicians. Strong belief in God or in the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual apprehension rather than proof.
Okay. All right. So we have a connection, even in a worldly definition, that's talking about a belief in God, a belief in things. And what does the Bible say in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1? It says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So it's a little bit of what you defined. It's actually something substantive that I hope for. And I have evidence of things that I cannot see. For example, when the wind blows, I feel it, but I don't know where it's coming from. So why is faith, the next question is, why is faith so important? Anybody want to tell me why they think faith is so important? And if you want to cheat, you can go to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. Because we can't see God, okay? So why is it important? Because it does what then? It connects us to God. And there's a real good definition as to really why it's important. In Hebrews 11, verse 6, it says, but without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is the rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So I get excited about this because, as a young man growing up, I had what I thought was faith, but I can tell every single one of you, all of y'all got faith right here that I'm looking at, because every one of y'all are sitting in a chair. And you believe that that chair was going to hold you up. And the reason you believe it is because every time you sit down, it holds you up. If you didn't think that chair was going to hold you up, would you sit? No. Probably not. But because you know it is going to do that, and it does it every time, and some of us, weigh a little bit of weight, and that's a little small chair. Is that chair gonna hold us? But it does it every time. That is the experience that comes through, and I heard him talk about fellowship. As you're having a relationship with God, your faith is being perfected, it is growing, it is being tested. Your trials are helping to improve that faith. So the way that our faith continues to get stronger is only through one thing. Just like any of you guys going to the gym? I see that guy, he looks like he's got a little bit of muscles. You go to the gym a little bit? Oh, yeah. That guy. You do work though, right? All right, at least. All right, so if you're working, you are actually doing something, you're improving at what you do. So the only way our faith actually gets stronger is to what? Put it into practice. But how do we put it into practice? God has given us this thing called trials. And a lot of us don't like those trials. But you know what the trials do? They actually perfect your faith. I'm actually trying to remember my own text there. I think that is James chapter 1, verse 2. Now this is kind of a little bit of a challenge for many of us, because how many of you guys like it when things are not going the best way they could for you? You had a perfect day plan. It was going to be, I don't know, what do you like to do? What's the fun thing you like to do? You like to hike or something?
Yeah, running, hiking.
Running, hiking. He's ready to go for a wonderful hike with his lovely fiance. He wakes up that morning, it's raining. And he was planning to propose that same day. Oh man, didn't work out so well. But what does it say in James chapter 1, verse 2? It says, "My brethren and sisterin, count it all joy when ye fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience." Have we not thought about how important it is that we slow down in this fast world that we have? So God gave us this thing called trials to actually help us grow our faith. So when you actually have a trial, take a moment, step back and go, why am I having to deal with this? I'll be very brief and just tell you guys a real small story. Many years ago, we were heading out of New York, my family and I, and was going on the west side highway. It was 5 o'clock traffic. We were full of cars everywhere. And I realized I didn't have my Easy Pass. And I said, oh, it's in the back of the car. Let me pull over really quick. We pull over really quick. I cut across 3 lanes of traffic, and there was this little spot that I could zip in and go into the back of my car. So I get out, I go in the back of my car, I get my transponder, I go, get right back into the car, my wife goes, well, we're not going anywhere because this lady in front of you has a flat tire. I'm like, oh man, this is a bummer. Let me go. All right, I go out, I go to help her out, and I'm complaining because I'm trying to get up there. It's 5 o'clock traffic, I want to beat the traffic. And sure enough, I said to her, hey, I couldn't go anywhere anyway because her car was in the only spot I could leave. So I had to help her. And we help her, I go and help her with her tire. And I said, hey, I just want to ask you real quick, how's your day going? She said, it's not going so good. She's only 20 years old. And her brother was dying of a brain tumor at 18. Now, I thought I was having a bad day until I realized she was having an even harder day. But do you know what God did? God gave me that moment of forgetting my transponder in the back so I could help her. We had a moment to pray together, and there was something that happened that was truly a little bit surprisingly mind-blowing for me. I said to her, "Do you believe in God?" She goes, "Well, I kind of do, but I'm not really sure." And I said, "Well, let me just tell you. I believe that everything happens for a reason." You know what she did? She pulled up her sleeve, and she showed me her tattoo. And her tattoo said, "Everything happens for a reason." And I got to realize that out of the challenge or the trial that God has, He connects us. So that fellowship and that faith experience is designed to try us and help us grow. So whenever you want to think about how you grow your faith, just look at every trial you have and recognize that is God's way of helping you grow.
And the next question that I'm going to ask you today says, what are miracles and do they happen today?
I want you guys to go back and do the exact same thing we did before. Go look up the definition of miracles. I do this all the time. And words are so important. And the way they're even defined, even in the dictionary, is pretty profound. So go to Webster's and just see what the word miracle is defined as.
So a surprising and welcome event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency.
Interesting. She's going to get an effect. She's really nice for me. It actually refers to a divine agency. So divinity is talked about in the context of a miracle. So even an atheist is likely saying that something outside of me made this happen. So divinity is being broken out in the context of a miracle. I want to just go real briefly to Matthew. I'm a big guy on trying to use the Bible to explain the Bible. In Matthew chapter 8, verse 23, I think there's a really cool story here. I'm answering the question in a little bit of a different way, so he will have the chance to probably answer the question even better than myself. But Matthew chapter 8, verse 23, it talks a bit about the storm of the lake. I think you all probably know that Jesus had done a few miracles of the day, and then he entered into the boat, and he was now really tired from doing a lot of healing and sharing a lot with the people around. And as they got on the lake, it says he entered the ship and the disciples followed him, and there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch as the ship was covered with the waves. But he was asleep. And the disciples came to him and awoke him and saying, "Lord, save us, lest we perish." And he said unto them, "Why are you so fearful? O ye of," is an interesting, little faith. Faith then came back in, tied into this miracle. Then he arose, he rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the men marveled. What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Now I'm going to show you some connections here that I think are really profound, because you just had Jesus do what? He calmed a storm that was so great that the boat that they were in, very seasoned fishermen that had fished, they've been on rough waves, they've done crazy things, they were fearful for their lives. But yet they witnessed the Creator calm the storm. The winds and the waves obey him. An example of a miracle. An example of a miracle that they witnessed firsthand. Now let's carry the story on. Then they go on to the other side. In the country of Gergesenes, there were two men possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceedingly fierce, that no man might pass by the way. And behold, they cried out, "What are we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Are you here to torment us before this time?" And they were a good way off from the swine that were feeding. And the devils besought him, saying, if you cast us out, let us go into the swine. And they went into the herd of swine, and the swine went into the sea. But where were the disciples when the demoniacs came out of the tombs to Jesus? Those guys ran away. Jesus was left there with the demoniacs. Now, these guys had just witnessed a miracle. And yet, they were going to witness another miracle, and they couldn't even see it because they were afraid. So the question that's asked of us is, what are miracles? We know they're a divinely appointed action by God. But the crazy part is, the reason we don't see them today is because they happen before our very eyes, and we don't even notice. Do you know my greatest miracle? My 2 daughters. The birth of a child is one of the most amazing miracles we get to witness. And yet we are in a world today where people want to get rid of children. The greatest miracle God gave us, which is tied even to another question. So I'll end with that and turn this over.
Okay. Sí, Sally?
Yo creo que nosotros aquí todos somos un milagro maravilloso. Podemos respirar. ¿Cómo se sanó de tan mal que estaba la rodilla del hermano izquierdo? Se sanó y está aquí con nosotros. Eso es un milagro. Cada día que nosotros podemos abrir nuestros ojos y podemos orar, es un milagro. Que podamos respirar sin la asistencia de un ventilador, es un milagro. Que podamos tener salud, es un milagro. O sea, no tenemos que irnos lejos. Aquí mismo, nosotros mismos somos un milagro viviente. Y no debemos olvidar eso. Y en cada cosa que veamos en nuestro diario vivir, vamos a ver las manos de Dios y los milagros que Él hace por nosotros a cada instante.
Amen.
Amen.
I have a thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
Amen.
So, is a miracle more based on how we perceive the world versus what's actually happening? I don't know if that question, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
I'm digesting.
Yeah,
Because there's a lot in there.
yeah.
I can give you an example of what you're saying, and I saw this on a podcast. So, for example, if I told you, I'm gonna give you $1,000 for every red car you see on your commute home, or for every single red object. So now look around the room and tell me how many red objects you see.
Right, everything's right.
And you can say that's kind of red, pink is off red color, right? So what I'm trying to answer your question is yes. So it depends on your viewpoint. If you have, again, going back to what I was talking about, and I'm sorry, I should be speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
But you asked it in English, so I'm going to answer in English. So basically, we go through life whether you want to see some stuff or not, but they're there. But once you choose, and when I say choose, is when we choose God, to see the miracles in life, then you're going to start to realize that they're all around you.
So then, is it safe to say that miracles are more a reflection of how we are not connected to God versus
Yes.
how much God wants to do for us?
Yes, and I can tell you, when Jesus was about to die on the cross, what did he say? What did he cry out?
God forgive them, for they don't know what they do.
Well, yes, that, but what else did he say? He said, God, where are you? I don't feel you. Like, he started weeping. So my thing is, this is him losing connection from the Father for a brief moment in his life. Why are we so comfortable being disconnected to God and we do not, it doesn't face us? Again, this is the attitude that we choose. And if you choose to be like Jesus, you're going to be connected 100% of the time, all the time, every time. And when you feel like you're disconnected, you should feel anxious and sad and like the world is ending. But sadly, because of sin, we don't. We spend our whole life, sometimes we don't even pray. And you know what the saddest truth is that not even, the SDA church has done, they have done surveys, and they ask pastors. Not even pastors are praying, really. So why are we so comfortable not being connected to God? That's the real question. And I just reversed your question.
I have an answer.
Okay?
I think Satan, look, we live in the end times, yeah? We can all agree on that?
Mhm.
And if we're speaking prophetically, this is Laodicea, where it's neither hot or cold. And Satan's mission right now is to blur the lines. Blur them so completely that it's hard even to tell what's right and wrong now these days. You know? So why are we so comfortable being disconnected from God? Because the lines have been blurred so thoroughly that we are neither hot or cold. And that is literally our mission now. Decide, what are you going to be? That's just me. I don't know. I know nothing.
You took my what I was going to talk about in the next question.
My bad.
Nah,
It's good. I want to add one other thing, and I'll let you come in.
Wait. Do I get a book too? I'm just kidding.
That's a great question. You got my last book too.
Oh, thank you. I was just joking.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, that's good. I gave one to the young and then one to the old. Joke.
Jeepers.
When you guys think about the story of Lazarus, was that a miracle?
Of course.
That's
Obvious.
But if you guys think about the story of Lazarus, Jesus heard that Lazarus was sick. What did he do?
Nothing.
He delayed his going to heal Lazarus. And he's been healing a whole bunch of people. He actually healed the centurion's son, centurion's servant, without even going. Why didn't he do that for Lazarus? If you read, it says, I am delaying this so that the Son of God can be glorified. So God's miracles are for one reason, tied to what he's been talking about. God has one goal for all of us. And that is that we are with him for eternity. So miracles are not so that we go, oh my gosh, did you guys see that? That was amazing. That's irrelevant. It's actually so that people are brought to Jesus and see him in a light that they've never seen him before. So he had the opportunity, I don't know if you guys know, even our lovely Jews had a problem with the state of the dead. They thought that when you died, you went to heaven too. And Jesus waited until it was past the 3-day window. So the body is now decaying and smelly. So if that guy's in heaven, is he going to have to come back? So he was addressing multiple issues with his delay. And that miracle was to glorify God so that people could realize that's our Savior. That's the one that created us. He has the power over death. So miracles not only help us see God better, us missing things that are right in front of us, they also, like he talked about, fellowship, connect us to Jesus and test and prove our faith.
So we're moving on to the third question. And the third question for today says, why did God create us? ¿Por qué Dios nos creó? Why did God create us?
Okay. ¿Por qué Dios nos creó? Es una pregunta que puede ser simple, como no puede ser simple, puede ser muy compleja, pero para entender yo lo que tengo son 4 puntos, y la primera es para la gloria de Dios, para que nuestra relación con Dios, para que reflejemos el amor y el carácter de Dios, que creo que es la más importante, y para, no sé cómo decirlo en español, to fulfill his purpose, para cumplir su propósito. Yo quiero comenzar para la gloria de Dios, es algo que lo podemos ver en Isaías 43, 6 al 7, y ahí podemos ver la manera de que nosotros fuimos creados para su gloria, y dice, traer a mis hijos from after, y mis hijas hasta el final del mundo. Cualquier persona que llame a mi nombre, al que yo creé, será para mi gloria. Entonces ahí podemos ver que fuimos hechos para su gloria, y como mencionamos hace mucho tiempo atrás, uno de los panelistas que vinieron hablaron sobre no todos nos podemos llamar hijos de Dios, solo los que de verdad aceptamos a Dios como nuestro Padre podemos llamarlo a Él nuestro Padre, y Él nos llama a su Hijo de Dios. Para nuestra relación también lo podemos ver en Génesis 1:27, que ahí podemos ver que somos hechos en su imagen, y parte de eso es lo obvio, que tenemos pies, cabeza, ojos y todo hecho en su imagen, pero más que nada eso a mí me gustaría pensar que es en su imagen, incluye la parte de amor, y eso es lo más importante, que nosotros reflejemos el carácter y el amor de Dios. Dios nos creó en la imagen de Él y tenemos muchos sentimientos, pero más que nada el amor solo viene de Dios, y si somos hechos en su imagen podemos reflejar eso si nosotros reflejamos el carácter de Dios. Y el carácter es algo que no es yo creo que es lo único que vamos a llevar al cielo, que va a ser igual, pero más que nada es algo que nosotros tenemos que perfeccionar aquí en la tierra. Y eso es lo más difícil, y yo lo lucho todos los días. Hay días que me levanto y no tengo nada de cristiano, y me levanto diciendo cosas que no debía pensar y cosas así, pero al final del día yo oro y digo, Dios, pule mi carácter, porque yo sé que no voy a llegar al cielo si tú no pules mi carácter, porque ni siquiera es que yo voy a cambiar mi carácter. Tengo que dejar que Dios cambie mi carácter, pero la decisión es mía de decir, Dios, yo quiero tener tu carácter, yo quiero tener amor, porque si yo digo que Dios es amor, pero al final del día alguien rubs me the wrong way, ¿qué es eso? Entonces yo no tengo el carácter de Dios, no tengo el amor de Dios. El amor y el carácter de Dios es lo más importante, por la razón que Él nos creó, pero es la clave también para nuestra salvación. Y con eso, I'll keep it short, y eso es todo lo que tengo que decir. Marcelo?
Go ahead, Marcelo.
So the question is, why did God create us? And it's easy to answer from a Christian point of view, but when you look at the entire world, He created everybody. And He has children, just like we may have children that are good and bad. So the question some atheists might pose, why did God create Adolf Hitler? Why did God create Saddam Hussein? Why did God create, Kim Jong-un? And we can go on with all the bad people in the world, but God answers that question and says, everybody has free will. And He says, I hope that all my children will choose to believe me and follow me and be saved. And so, to throw like a monkey wrench on your hand, next time he comes on, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench on you.
I love monkey wrenches.
All right.
Is that the monkey wrench?
No. Well,
Did you throw it?
not yet.
Okay. I'm waiting.
Somebody gives you different things.
Yeah. So the big question is like, how can we tell other people, in a sense, why did God create such evil people? What purpose did they have in life, in our world?
This is my mechanic that
Okay.
handles the monkey wrench.
So we're circling around. We're saying the same thing, but without getting to the heart of it. So let me attempt to get to the heart of it. There's a war in heaven, yeah? We all know that. Who are the two parties? On one side we have God, and on the other side we have Satan and his theories. Satan's argument is we don't need God to be good, essentially. Jesus said, I am good. I am the definition of good. And you need me. Right? So, what would have happened if God had eliminated Satan right there?
They'd have been afraid of him and they would have died right away.
But what would have happened to the good angels?
They would have been afraid of him and they would have died.
So Satan, what he did was create a doubt in everybody. Yes, the good angels chose Jesus and his way. But the doubt was still there. Had God destroyed Satan, that would have reaffirmed what Satan was saying.
Amen.
Now, our justice system echoes what's happening in heaven. Yeah? In order to be a juror, what qualifications do you need to have? Say you're on trial. Can I know you to be a good juror? No. Because I would have a bias if I knew him. If you stole a car and I stole a car in my past, would that make me a good juror for the defense or for the prosecution? Mazda Miata. So you can't be involved with the plaintiff. You can't have knowledge of what the crime is. My peoples, where was humanity when this whole thing happened? We weren't created yet. Our job is to become law-abiding citizens in order to judge between God and Satan. You said that it's to the glory of God, right? That he created us to be to the glory of God. That statement makes no sense unless we understand that to the glory of God is God's vindication between Satan's argument and what God is arguing, which is, I am the way. And Satan says, no, we can be good people, we don't need you. Humanity was created because we weren't there. We had no bones in the matter. We can be law-abiding citizens who had nothing to do with that period of time. And if you think of it like that, our mission becomes all the more greater. That's all I have to say, though. I got nothing else.
I like it.
Hey, it's on you now.
There's a monkey wrench, and then there's a baboon wrench. So I want to give us a little bit of a different perspective as well, because what he just said is very valid. But the atheist will run with that, and he will tell you that the God you serve is a sadistic God that created you to go and do some work for him. I've dealt with many atheists that have given some pretty good monkey wrenches to believe. And it's going to come back to uniting all the things that we're talking about here that I think are so important. If you guys go to Genesis chapter 1, in verse 26 it says, and God said, and this is the beginning of the introduction of the Godhead. You'll never hear me use the word Trinity because it is not a biblical word. It is a Catholic term. But you will hear it said, God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Now I want to ask you guys something, because I'm going to come to chapter 2, and we're going to go to verse 7. God is what?
Love.
God is love. Now, you know what's amazing about this? In the reason that God created us, He showed us the community amongst the Godhead. The Godhead had always to have been in community together. Because you could never be by yourself. Who do you love? God's very definition of who He is defined by the Godhead because they have been in eternal communion forever. And it is in God's nature to love. So His desire for communion is why He created mankind. Now, your story is really awesome with Satan in heaven, and did he create all these bad guys and all that? Your story answers his story because God didn't create Hitler. Hitler chose not to unite with his creator. And what you shared is that Satan even misinterpreted the Godhead himself because Satan said, if I get enough people together, I can overtake the Godhead. But the beauty of God is that He loves and is love. Now, this is the awesome part of the journey that you get to see with God. It says, and the Lord God actually formed man Himself. So you're telling me that my Creator got down on the ground, scooped it up, and He made me. And this is the exciting part that really makes it tangible why God is so much cares about you individually at a personal level. It says, then God breathed into His nostrils the breath of life. That is the kiss of God. And then and only then did man become a living soul. That was God's crowning act of all creation. He had done all these amazing things. He spoke and the light came. He fished in the sea and stars in the air. But when it came to you, He took a personal action and got down and made you and kissed you. That is where our young people, if they knew that God personally made them, they wouldn't take their lives. They would recognize they're so valuable to God. He loves you so much that that's why you're here. And that's why you're the answer to the sin problem. Because love overcometh all sin.
Hoy hemos tenido un programa muy bonito. Teníamos una pregunta más, pero creo que la vamos a dejar para la otra semana. Muchas gracias a todos por participar.